tired. I will be the first to admit it because I am the only one here that is tired. So, there's a movie that came out last year called Hurt, and I'm just gonna skip right into it. You move here. Right there, that's better. So, I watched this with three of my friends, and we were like, hey, let's watch this Halloween movie. It got like 70 of the critics and 71 of the audience. So I was like, oh, Joy. It's a good film. And then I went on Letterboxd and I found out that the majority of people gave it a 2 out of 5. So that scared me. So we watched it, and about 40 minutes in, my friend left, and I flat out said this, and I've never done this before while watching a movie with friends. I flat out said, you guys just want to stop? That's what we did. We stopped watching this film because it was bad. It was bad. So, what is it about? What is it? So, it's this film. It's a movie of story. Kinda. It's really hard to follow. But from the synopsis of IMDb of the movie, it's about this war soldier who returns home to his wife, and he has post-traumatic stress. So they go to a hayride attraction for Halloween, and I guess someone is killing people. So, yeah, that's what it's about. The film is bad. I can't... Now, obviously, I haven't watched it all the way through. It was free, so thank God I didn't waste any money on this film. But, like, okay, good things from what I saw. First of all, the acting, for the most part, it's okay. It's okay. The film looks nice. I know this was probably a relatively small budget, but the film actually looks somewhat, like, confidently made, and, like, it looks decent. Like, you can watch and you're like, okay, this looks okay. That's about it. Because I only watched 40 minutes of it, man, I kind of just stopped. I can't really say that much about the rest. I don't know if it gets better or worse. But the thing that made this movie bad for me and my friends was that it was just boring. I've said it before and I'll say it again. Your movie can be the worst film on the planet. But if you make it entertaining, I don't care in what way. If it's like so bad it's good, like The Room with Tommy Wiseau, where the acting is just all over the place, the script, the writing is just whatever, but it has some of the funniest line deliveries. You can make your movie from shit to the best thing ever made. I mean, look how many people quote The Room. It's like, wow. Wow. This is not a film anyone will quote. The movie opens, and there is a full minute scene of a tree. A full 1 minute scene, long take, of a fucking tree. And there's no cuts. There's no reason. There's no point. The first 4 minutes were probably the most bored I've been watching a film. There was no rhyme or reason for anything. It was just landscape shots with nothing going on. I was like, okay, like the director, the producer credit's going to pop up. And, because that's what you do. You get like wide shots of landscape to, do the opening or some shit. I do that with some of my short films on my other channels. Well, they don't do that here. Nothing like that is done. It doesn't show the credits. It's not an opening. It's just a tree. And nothing happens. And then the movie fakes you out with, like, this girl gets kidnapped and she gets killed, and then the movie just cuts to our main character, and I'm like, is this our main character? I thought that was... And apparently she was just watching a movie for Halloween. And I was like, what? Okay. And there's a scene, like, oh my god. The scene afterwards is the most... It was the weirdest exchange of dialogue I've ever seen in a film. It was worse and weirder than the freaking scene in Tommy Wiseau's The Room, where it's in the flower shop, and it's like, oh, hi, Johnny, how are you doing? I didn't know it was you. And he says, that's me. And she's like, here you go, keep the change. Hi, doggy, you're my favorite customer. It's weirder than that. The girl, this trick-or-treater goes up to the girl, our main character, and she says, trick-or-treat, And she's like, okay. So she gives out the bucket, and she very slowly takes a candy. And she says, go on, grab another one. And she's like, okay. And she's like, don't go to my sister's house in the woods. She's a witch. You can get candy there. And I remember, thinking, wait, then why did you tell her if you were telling her not to go there? Are you messing with her? What's going on? She takes the candy. She then scares her. And this girl's not creeped out by any of this at all. And she says, why do you smoke? Because she's, smoking a cigarette. And she says, a reason. And she's like, can you take off the mask? For no reason. She just randomly says, out of the blue, can you take off your mask? And she's like, sure, okay, I'll take off my mask. And she's got, a scar. And it's a prosthetic. She was trying to scare the kid. And she's like, who did that to you? And she's like, my father. And she pulls out a switchblade, and then she says, he did it with a knife, and he's not alive anymore. And she's like, oh, where was your mom? And I'm like, girl, how old are you? Why are you talking to this lady about her scar? And why is she telling you about it? It was weird. The way the directing was, and the way the camera just lingered on their faces. Then after that, there's I'm only telling you what I saw from my viewing experience. And then there's a scene where the friend comes by to talk to the husband and wife, and the camera just zooms in and out on their faces for no reason other than to make the viewer uncomfortable, I assume. And I just was like, what the hell's going on? Why is the camera, it was weird and all, and even though it was well shot, it was probably the worst editing or worse cinematography in the movie. I was like, what the fuck is going on? And then they go to the haunt after 20 minutes of them talking about stuff and weird interactions with each other. They go to the haunt or the hayride, and we just get footage they obviously shot on their iPhone of the haunt, something I would do for my films nowadays, which don't ever do. But they get background and landscape shots of the haunt and stuff. And there's no rhyme or reason for anything. At that point, it was 30 minutes in. I'm like, we're just now moving the plot forward? And then they go somewhere else in the hayride area or whatever. And they have sex. And then he runs off. The husband, he gets killed. And the wife just returns home, gives up looking for him. She calls her friend, and she's like, have you, has he come home? And she's like, oh no, your husband hasn't returned home yet. And do you know what's going on with him? And she's like, no, why? And he's like, well, you need to pay attention to your husband. He's going through traumatic shit, and she's like, well, you're not a good friend. And I remember thinking, I was like, what? Why would you tell your best friend, or like, where's her sister? I don't fucking remember. She was like, you're a terrible friend, sister. And I'm like, why? Why is she bad? She's telling you that your husband is going through some tough shit right now, and you're just sitting there like, you're a bitch. What? I gotta tell you, man, 10 minutes later, I turned the film off. I couldn't finish it. It was bad. And I skipped forward, and honestly, it doesn't look like the film progressed. It literally just looked like landscape shots, scenes that lingered on too long, and then at the very end, it finally gets interesting, so maybe it was building up to something. I don't know. I don't really have the time or patience, and apparently a lot of other people didn't because they were bored shitless, and a lot of people did not like this film, including myself. I will say, though, because I didn't finish it, I can't really give it an F, so I'm going to go ahead and give it a D-, but I wouldn't recommend this film. It's a snooze. Like, look, I'm okay with films that take their time. There's a film called The House with the Devil, and it was directed by the dude who made The Innkeepers, and I think he made Barbarian, or I don't know. It was... No, I'm sorry. This guy... How am I going to try to find that? So, the movie is a slow burn. It's about this girl who's babysitting a house. She's house sitting. And the whole film, almost next to nothing happens. She just watches over the house. But the thing was, we liked this character. We're interested because there's some shady stuff that's going down. There's a lot of mystery and elements that are kind of sprinkled in to get the viewer guessing. And when stuff finally happens, it's like almost at the end of the film, you're like, wow, that took a nosedive. So if you were like not even thinking this was a horror film, you would be like, oh, it's just a drama or something about this girl, house sitting. But then it totally does a complete 180 on you. So maybe that's what the movie was going for. I don't care. I don't know. I might watch it at some point again, try to see what was it about, but I'm definitely not doing it this year. Fuck that. I'm going to go to bed because I'm tired.